What if the secret to everything you ever wanted was something so simple, so ordinary, that you've been overlooking it your entire life? It's not a strategy or a formula or some exclusive knowledge only the successful people know. Rather, it's just one thing, and that's repetition. And before you think you already know what this is about, stay with me. Because what repetition actually does to your brain, to your beliefs, to your entire reality, is something most people never fully understand. And that misunderstanding is exactly why most people never change. When you study the most powerful forces in human history, they all share one foundation: repetition. Think about religion. Every major faith on earth demands it. Muslims pray 5 times a day, same words, same directions, every single day. Buddhists chant, Christians recite scripture, Catholics pray the rosary. Why would the oldest and most enduring systems of human belief across completely different cultures, separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years, all independently arrive at the exact same practice? Because they understood a fundamental law of the human mind, one that modern neuroscience is proving right now, which is repetition is a literal rewrite of your brain. Stick around until the second part of the video to learn how you can use this in your everyday life to achieve the things that you want. So what's actually happening inside your brain when you repeat something consistently? Every thought you have, every action you take, travels along neural pathways in your brain. And the first time you do something new, that pathway is narrow, like a trail. But every time you repeat it, that trail widens. It eventually becomes a highway. Scientists call this myelination. A protective insulation builds around the neural pathways, making the signal travel up to 100 times faster, more efficiently, more powerfully. What starts as a conscious struggle becomes second nature. What becomes second nature becomes automatic. And what becomes automatic becomes who you are. This is not a metaphor, this is neuroscience. Your brain is physically restructuring itself around whatever you repeatedly think, feel, and do. Which means you're not just practicing a skill when you repeat something, you are literally building a new version of yourself, neuron by neuron. And nobody understood the dangerous side of this more than Adolf Hitler. Read Mein Kampf and you'll find something chilling. Hitler had a remarkable and deliberate understanding of the law of suggestion. Slogans, posters, flags, marching songs, his image on every building, every billboard, every street corner, and the line, "One people, one nation, one leader," repeated every single day from every direction, bombarding the German people 24 hours a day. And what happened? They believed it. Not because it was true, not because the evidence supported it, but because of repetition. Because repetition transformed suggestion into a belief, and belief into a conviction, and conviction into an action. That is the terrifying power of repetition in the wrong hands. But here's what this reveals about the right hands, your hands. Because the exact same neurological mechanism that Hitler weaponized against an entire nation is the same one that every religion has used, the same one that athletes use to build peak performance, the same one that musicians use to achieve mastery. And it's completely available to you right now. And here's where it gets even more fascinating. Psychologists call this the illusory truth effect. And it's one of the most powerful and least understood forces in human psychology. When you hear something repeatedly, your brain begins to process it as true. Not because you've been convinced by logic or evidence, but simply because familiarity feels like truth. Your brain confuses recognition with reality. And here's the critical part. This works on the things you tell yourself just as powerfully as the things you hear from the outside. Every thought you repeat about yourself becomes a belief. Every belief becomes a conviction. Every conviction shapes the decisions that you make, and every decision becomes your reality. Which means the story you keep telling yourself about who you are and what you're capable of and what you deserve isn't just a thought. It's a blueprint your brain is actively building from. So, how do you actually use this? Because knowing about repetition and using it correctly are two completely different things. And this is what most people get wrong. The first and most important thing is to understand this. Repetition without belief is just noise, literally. Research from the University of Illinois found that the combination of repetition and emotional engagement is what creates lasting neural change, not repetition alone. You can repeat an affirmation 1,000 times while a deeper part of your mind quietly disagrees with every word, and it won't work. The repetition has to be paired with genuine feelings, with visualization, with the emotional state of the outcome you're pursuing. This is why the most effective forms of repetition throughout history have always involved emotion. Hitler's rallies weren't just slogans. They were charged with collective emotions that made the repetition land deeper. Religious chanting isn't just words, it's words combined with devotion, community, and genuine feelings. So here's how to actually incorporate this correctly. First, morning repetition. The period immediately after waking up is when your brain is in a so-called hyper-receptive state, the same state you are in just before you go to sleep. Neuroscientists have found this is when your subconscious mind is the most receptive to new programming, most open to suggestion. What you repeatedly feed your mind in this window goes deeper than any other point in the day. This is why every successful morning routine in history has involved some sort of intentional repetition. Whether prayer, meditation, affirmation, visualization, the format matters less than the consistency of it. Second, spaced repetition. Your brain doesn't consolidate information in a single sitting. The forgetting curve, discovered by psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus, shows that we forget roughly 70% of new information within 24 hours, unless we repeat it at strategic intervals. The brain strengthens neural pathways not through marathon sessions, but through consistent, spaced return to the same material. Small doses, high frequency, over time. This is why religious traditions don't ask you to pray for 8 hours once a week. They ask you to pray briefly, but multiple times every single day. Because the brain responds to frequency far more than volume. Third, physical repetition. Research shows that pairing mental repetition with physical movements creates stronger neural encoding. Athletes who combine visualization with physical practice outperform those who only physically practice. Writing something by hand rather than typing it increases retention dramatically. Speaking words out loud while moving activates more of the brain simultaneously. The body and the mind are not separate systems, they feel and record experience together. Think about what you're currently repeating in your life. You are already using the power of repetition every single day. The question is whether you're using it consciously or unconsciously, whether it's working for you or against you. Every repeated thought of self-doubt is rewiring your brain towards limitations. Every repeated pattern of avoidance is building a stronger pathway away from what you want. Every story you keep telling yourself about why you can't is becoming more neurologically true with every repetition. But the opposite is equally true. Every repeated action towards your goal, no matter how small, is building a neural pathways towards it. Every repeated moment of showing up, even when nothing seems to be happening, is physically restructuring your brain. Every consistent return to your craft, your gift, your vision is building something quietly beneath the surface, until one day it isn't quiet anymore. The most powerful force in human history isn't money, isn't intelligence, isn't even talent. It's repetition when used intentionally, consistently, with belief behind every single instance of it. The question isn't whether repetition works. History has already answered that. The question is what you're going to start repeating starting now. If you've learned something from this video, please like the video and subscribe. It helps the channel greatly. And let me know in the comments what it is you plan to repeat every day. Thank you for watching.